This is verse 30 of the 16th chapter of the Gospel of John, as we're reaching the culmination, really, of this conversation in which Jesus has been describing to his disciples the great benefit that accrues to them by virtue of the presence of the Parakletos. It seems that there was something of an epiphany that took place here, and we find this exclamation, you might say, from the disciples, in which now, in a kind of breakthrough of understanding, they make this remarkable statement that we find in verse 30, beginning with nun, the indeclinable adverb, now, and then oidamen from eido, which means to see or inferentially to know. First person plural, perfect active indicative. So now we have known and have continued to know and indeed understand now that, and then the same word here, oidos, also in the perfect, this is the second person singular perfect active indicative. So now we have come to know that you know and continue to know. Panta, the adjective, means all things when used substantively as here. In the neuter, that's the way we'd render it, is all things. We know that you know all things. Kai, the connective. U, the negation, going with the verb here. So the ekase, second person singular, present active indicative. So not you have, and then kreon, the word for need. So you do not have a need that anyone, hina, the connective that takes the subjunctive, which we have here. So erotao means to ask or to request. This is the third person singular, present active subjunctive. You do not need anyone to ask. Tis, this is the subject, so you don't need anyone to ask you anything. The point of this is simply to say that Jesus already understands. He knows their questions. He knows exactly what their concerns are. It's not as if he as a teacher needs to be led along by the questions that are put to him by anybody in his group, but he actually understands it all perfectly. That seems to be the sense of the phrase here. So we know that you know all things. You don't need anyone to ask you a question to, as it were, lead you along the way in your teaching ministry. And so then in, we have the preposition, means in, or it can also mean by, probably a better sense here. By tuto, this, the demonstrative pronoun, the dative, singular, neuter here, in this, or by this. Pistuomen, second person, or third person, I should say first person plural, present active indicative. So in this we believe. Hoti, the connective. Apo, from, preposition, takes the genitive, from God. Theu, exaelthes, from exerkomai, I come or I go. Here it's going to be come, you might say. This is the second person singular, aorist active indicative. So in this or by this, we know that from God you have come, because you have this perfect understanding, you might say, of our questions, the state of our heart, and you can address these things simply by virtue of your own insight into them.